Now I'd like to call up to the podium to get tonight's program going the chairwoman of the San Mateo County Historical Association, Barbara Pierce.
Thank you, Mitch. I'd like to welcome you all tonight on behalf of the San Mateo County Historical Association. It's the association's mission to inspire wonder and discovery of the cultural and natural history of San Mateo County. And tonight, this History Makers event recognizes an individual or a family who has made a significant historical impact on San Mateo County, and whose actions have also significantly affected development outside of the county on a statewide or even greater basis. This history making might have importance in people's lives, economically, socially, or politically. It may inspire lifestyle, educational, environmental, or spiritual change. So tonight is a very special evening. I'd like to thank all of our current and former members of the San Mateo County Historical Association Board and invite them to stand just quickly so that we can thank them. Thank you. And recently, one of our board members, Bob Oyster, passed away, and we are honored and pleased to have his family here tonight in his honor. Tony, Kathy. So joining us tonight as our Master of Ceremonies is Dan Ashley, the anchor of ABC 7 News in the evening. In his 30 years on television, Dan has reported on a wide range of issues and events that affect our lives. As a journalist, he has covered stories all over the Bay Area, the country, and the world. He reported from Poland on the March of the Living with Bay Area Holocaust survivors. Other notable assignments include reporting live from New Hampshire and South Carolina for state primaries, and from Iowa for the state's caucus. Dan came to ABC 7 in 1995 as the weekday 5 p.m. news anchor and investigative reporter. He's received many industry awards, including the prestigious DuPont Columbia Award and the Edward R. Murrow Awards for Excellence in Journalism, as well as numerous Emmy Awards for Best Newscast and Individual Reporting. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Barbara, thank you very much. Good evening. How are you? It is a great pleasure to be with you tonight. Anytime, I just finished the 5 o'clock news and raced over here. I'll have to go back and do the 11 o'clock news, but it's a great treat because anytime I can be in front of a large group of people like this who can't change the channel, it is irresistible. I really am very happy to be here tonight for a number of reasons. The most important probably is that we're honoring a very dear friend of mine, Tad Taube, tonight, and much more about Tad as the evening progresses, of course. I'm reminded, Barbara's kind enough to mention some of my experiences. I'm reminded this past week, one of the most impactful experiences I've had as a reporter in more than 30 years now was covering and riding out Hurricane Hugo that hit Charleston, South Carolina in 1989, and watching all these reporters on television. Did you see some of this stuff? We took some chances back then, but not quite exactly what they're doing these days. But our hearts, I know, and probably our funds as well are with those folks in Texas who endured Harvey, and the people in Florida who endured, and the Caribbean who endured Irma. Having been through Hurricane Hugo in Charleston, South Carolina, I can tell you that they have weeks, months, and even years before their lives get put back together, so it's a very difficult time for them. The San Mateo Historical Association does some really remarkable work in this community through 3 principal sites: the History Museum in Redwood City, the Woodside Store, and the Sanchez Adobe in Pacifica. I was told as I arrived tonight a very interesting figure, that 80% of 3rd and 4th graders in this area, 80% during that time between 3rd and 4th grade will interact with those 3 sites that I just mentioned and have a direct connection with the San Mateo County Historical Association. This association is about preserving, protecting, and passing along history. But we're reminded tonight by the people that we have honored in the past and the honoree this evening that we are making history every single day. And to that end, I want to acknowledge some of the honorees who are with us tonight in past years. Our first recipient of this award, T. Jack Foster family, for creating a progressive community modeled by many. Jack Foster, if you'd please stand, we would appreciate it. Where are you, Jack? There he is. Nice to have you here, sir. In 2007, the Burrell family for their many business and philanthropic works in California. Shanita Cleary and the Burrell family, would you please stand? Where are you guys? Wonderful, congratulations. In 2008, the Lane family for improving Sunset Magazine and establishing it in San Mateo County. Brenda Monks and Bill Lane's daughter, who is Bill Lane's daughter, please stand. Where are you, Brenda? Thank you, great to have you here. Thank you for being here tonight. Jim Fox and Keith Sorensen for exemplary work in bringing justice to San Mateo County over 57 years. Jim Fox, please stand. Where are you, Jim? Thank you. Venture capitalist Pitch Johnson for his groundbreaking work that changed the economy of the Bay Area and introduced products and services that improved the world in many ways. Pitch, where are you? Would you please stand and be acknowledged? Oh, there you are. Thank you, sir. 2016, the Wisdom family for their lasting positive impact on the business life of the Mid-Peninsula area. Please ask the Wisdom family, if you would please, to stand. We would appreciate it. Thank you. So here we come and arrive at 2017, and our honoree tonight is Tad Taube for his international philanthropic activities. You know, I've known Tad for many years now, and he and I serve on the Commonwealth Club board together. And for those of you who know him personally, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've not had the great pleasure to meet Tad, Tad has abundant energy, an incredibly keen intellect, a remarkably generous nature, and a fantastic sense of humor. He's just a delightful guy to be around. And I can tell you in my job as a reporter in this community that he has put his mark on so many good works around this community, all over the Bay Area, not just on the peninsula. He's also been very involved in his home country of Poland, with a museum there that recognizes the many contributions and the full story of Jewish life in Poland, more than just what you hear about because of the Holocaust. There was a very rich Polish history that went many, many centuries before the Holocaust. And this great museum that he was really instrumental in opening a couple of years ago really documents that. So Tad is not only involved in our community, he is literally an international figure in philanthropy. So Tad, I personally am delighted to be here tonight and honored to have been asked to help MC this event and honor you tonight. Please give our dear friend Tad Taube a big hand. This is a really special evening, as it always is, as this organization honors people who have done such remarkable things in our community. And you know, there are two kinds of people in the world, the kinds of people who love money and use people, and the kinds of people who love people and use money. And that's why we are here to honor the gentleman we are honoring tonight. Please welcome Mitch Postel, President of the San Mateo County Historical Association, to come up and explain exactly why Tad Taube is being saluted and honored here tonight. Mitch?
I'm going to speak a little bit about the San Mateo County Historical Association and a reason that many of us are here tonight. In my 33 years of being the director of the Historical Association, that's right, I'm one of the artifacts. Just admit that. I have never been more excited about our current programs and future activities. Through all these years, the thing that has been most consistent is the terrific work of our volunteers, which manifests itself this very night. Greg Galley is the chairman of this year's San Mateo County History Makers, and I wonder if Greg would stand up so that we could recognize him. Stand. There you go. Okay, that's better. Okay. And in fact, can all the members of the History Makers Committee, you're all here tonight, could you all stand so that we could appreciate you too? Now, for those that know not that much about the San Mateo County Historical Association and what we do, let me briefly say, and we have some slides to help illustrate this. We operate 3 museums with a total visitation of 65,000 people per year, which includes the San Mateo County History Museum, the building in the beautiful stained glass dome in downtown Redwood City, the Sanchez Adobe, the historic house at 1000 Lindemar Boulevard in Pacifica, the Woodside Store, the 1850s country store at Kings Mountain and Tripp Roads. We conduct school programs at these 3 sites, plus Folger Stable in Woodside, for more than 20,000 school children and their chaperones each year. We provide public access to our archives through our research library. We care for 420,000 historic items in our collections. We organize special educational programs for adults and children on a monthly basis. We carry on a creative schedule of changing exhibits at the San Mateo County History Museum. We publish a journal, La Peninsula. We act as a clearinghouse for matters of historic preservation throughout the county. And I got to tell you this, that over the next couple of years, look for major improvements at the Sanchez Adobe, which will include the building of a visitor center, and at our San Mateo County History Museum, we'll be dramatically upgrading our entrepreneurs and immigrants galleries. And now we're going to see just a short video that gives you a little bit of sense for the activities at these places.
65,000 visitors a year. You understand, obviously, sometimes we're preaching to the choir, but many of you who are here for the first time, we want you to understand exactly what the San Mateo County Historical Association does and why it's so important in this community, not only for young people, but for everyone else. It creates a sense of vibrancy, a sense of history for the people and the accomplishments of San Mateo County. So it's an important part of this community, part of the fabric of this community. And now we're going to get to the part of the program that is so meaningful for everyone in this community and the reason we're really here tonight. In partnership with Penn TV, our San Mateo County Historical Association salute to Tad Taube begins. Please watch the screen.
I was born in the ancient capital city of Krakow, but we lived in a city in northern Poland called Toruń. Basically, it was a German-speaking city, even though it was Polish. And if you didn't speak German in Toruń, you didn't eat. So that was my first language, clearly. My mom was a very cultured, refined lady, a beautiful lady. She was probably the quintessential Jewish mother, maintained a beautiful home, doted on my father and on the family. My father actually was a very, very high-ranking business executive. Even at a young age, he was in the export business. Actually exported ham and bacon to the United States, which is kind of amusing to most of my Jewish friends. He was in the United States with my mother in 1939. And their reports about, what was going on in Germany were not encouraging. And particularly after Kristallnacht, which was a horrible incident in Germany where the Nazis for the first time, started burning Jewish stores and breaking windows and stuff. So my parents made a decision not to go back. The problem with that decision was that I was staying with my grandmother in Warsaw. And so the challenge was, well, okay, fine, we don't go back. What happens to Tad? So they made arrangements with Uncle Norbert to bring me to the United States. The trip from Warsaw to Paris, which was our first stop, takes right through the heart of what was then Nazi Germany. At every stop, there was an inspection of the train by Gestapo. And I remember it was almost like a Hollywood movie script, with these Gestapo officers, coming in. Your papers, please. Of course, I was terrified because I had a travel pass that had my religion stamped on it. That was customary in Poland. Theoretically, they could have seized us. At that point, I was barely 8 years old. First stop was Paris. We were trying to get some kind of travel papers to allow us to get on a ship to go to the United States. And we boarded the Queen Mary in Cherbourg, large French port. I was on the Queen Mary for about a 5-day crossing to New York, and I will tell you, we were in a tiny little cubicle of a room below the waterline. When we landed in New York Harbor, I didn't have an entry visa to the United States. So my uncle and I were put on a ferry boat, boarded off the Queen, right onto a ferry boat, and taken to that famous resort called Ellis Island. That's like a penitentiary. It was really awful. I remember that experience rather vividly, and it was not pleasant. But we finally did get papers. We landed in New York Harbor, and my mother was there in tears, greeting her little boy that she hadn't seen for months at that point. My mother and father made a very good decision to send me to a boys' camp in upstate New York almost immediately upon my arrival in New York City. It's an amazing thing, you throw a kid of 8 years of age into total immersion and a magic thing happens. You learn the language. So I was at Crane Lake Camp for about 8 weeks. When I left the camp, I was fluent. Not only fluent, I didn't even have an accent. They decided we were going to get into the family sedan and make a journey out of it. We went from Manhattan to Niagara Falls to Black Mountain of the Dakotas to Yellowstone Park, all of the wonderful sights. We then settled in what is now the Korean part of Los Angeles, in a very skimpy one-bedroom apartment. I had the bedroom and my mother and father were on a Murphy bed in the living room. I mean, things were really tough for the Taube family at that point. My mother worked as a waitress to get by. My father got a job as a night watchman. And then good fortune struck the Taube family. I was screened by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for a part in a movie. This was a film called The Greenie, and it was about a little Polish kid that ends up in the east side of New York and sees a sandlot baseball game going on, looks out the window wistfully, wants to get involved, and the father says, no, it's too dangerous, and the housekeeper, who's also Polish, says, no, let him go out and meet some friends. So I go out, and they beat me up, and and eventually they allow me to enter the baseball game, and I hit a home run. And the rest is history. One of the things that happened was I was making $25 a day. And I got to tell you, I was the highest earner in my family at that point. My mother wasn't making $25 a day, and my father wasn't making, but I was. I made 3 movies, and I was on my way, I think, to sort of a half-assed career in Hollywood. And then my parents decided that this was not something they wanted their little son to be involved in, because my education was in studio school. So it wasn't the kind of education that my mother and father thought was appropriate for a young Jewish boy in America. So my father, when I was about, must have been in my junior year at University High School, West Los Angeles. We had that traditional conversation that you often see in the movies. Son, have you thought about college? I said, yes, I have, Dad. I'm going to UCLA. And he says, you're going to Stanford? And I said, oh, yes, sir. And that was the end of that conversation. I actually didn't get into Stanford. I got a very lovely letter telling me that while you're very qualified, we get so many applicants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, we offer you the opportunity to participate in a provisional program that we have at Stanford, which is the summer quarter program. And the way the summer quarter program worked is you were admitted to summer quarter. It was basically a trial. I survived and went to UCLA for a quarter, came back to Stanford in the winter of 1950. I was enrolled in Air Force ROTC. I got a telegram from the President of the United States. Greetings, you are hereby ordered to proceed, da-da-da-da. I was activated to active duty in the Air Force. The United States Air Force decided that I should be a communications officer. I headed up a unit that installed ground-to-air communications equipment, some of which is still there. I went re-enrolled at Stanford in graduate school. I was in a hybrid program at Stanford that was a collaborative program between the School of Engineering and the Graduate School of Business. It's called Industrial Management. And then I got a job working for an old line company in San Francisco that manufactured electric heating equipment. At that time, the Pacific Gas and Electric Company was giving a incentive to home builders, thousands of dollars, if they would build either an all-electric or an all-gas home. And I became rather intrigued with this process. That you could actually build something and get paid for doing it. So I retired from Wessex and went into the real estate business, building apartments. I was contacted by one of my real estate investment clients, a fellow by the name of Stan Herstein, who was a vice president for a company called Corette of California. Stan said, we just finished a public offering, and our founders, Joe and Steffi Corette, ended up with about $7 million that they netted for themselves. And they were looking to diversify because their whole fortune was in this, in this rag company, this apparel company. I had lunch with him. I said, how are the Corettes doing in their real estate endeavor? And he said, not very good. And I said, well, I know why they're not doing very good. He said, you know why? I said, yeah, I told him. And I said, well, would you tell that to Mr. and Mrs. Corette? I said, sure. So they ushered me in to Joe Corette's office, and he's sitting in a high-back chair. He had all these senior executives, the president of the company, the chief financial officer, the controller, his secretary, his personal assistant, his wife. Everybody was in that room. And he's leaning back in his chair. He said, well, Mr. Taube, Mr. Hertzstein tells me that you know all the reasons why we're not making any deals. I said, there's only one reason, Mr. Corette. All these people in the room. You can't make deals when you have a jury that's going to be involved in every decision. The real estate business is very entrepreneurial. By the time you folks are, through evaluating whatever it is that Mr. So-and-so brings to you, that opportunity is gone. You need to find somebody that you trust and allow him or her to go out and be your representative in the market and make deals. So he said, so go out and make some deals. Well, that was how I got to be, familiar with the Corettes, and that then led to a whole other career. Because what happened is I made them a ton of money. I mean, really over a very short period of time. So I became sort of a central figure in their life. I became the son they never had. Joe and Steffi's share, because they had everything in community property, was probably something on the order at that point of worth about $30 million, $35 million. They had about 35% of the company. Steffi, in the meanwhile, dies and leaves her share of the community property to Joe. I said, Joe, you don't want to take the money, because we were in a very high inheritance tax bracket at that point. And I finally convinced him that he could become a world-class philanthropist if he let the money flow into a nonprofit and then use that nonprofit to further his own philanthropy. And meanwhile, I'm involved with a very good friend of mine by the name of Jim Joseph, who's also a real estate developer. So Jim says, look, I've been approached to help organize a new football league called the United States Football League, the USFL. I said, Jim, what do I know about professional football? He said, look, you'll enjoy it. I'll sell you a minority interest. You get to know the people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It was a courageous venture, and I believe in competition. And the idea of competing with the National Football League was attractive.
The USFL had made plans to formally announce the startup of the league. It was going to be a big deal with the horseshoe table of all the owners and Howard Cosell. At precisely that time, Alex Spanos buys an interest in the San Diego Chargers and is disqualified by NFL rules and by our rules in owning an interest in the USFL. 12 chairs around a horseshoe table and 11 owners. Bad situation on nationwide TV. So the owner said, Tad, you've got to sit in that 12th chair and be the designated owner. My intention and the intention of the owners was to take me out. I was a shill. So I come home, I get off the plane, and all these flash bulbs are going off. And I'm looking behind me, wondering, is Paul Newman get off the plane behind me or what? It was me. I got off that plane and I was a celebrity. I was a celebrity because I was the new owner of the Bay Area franchise of the United States Football League. Was I going to be taken out after being on the front pages of all the newspapers and the lead story on all the television and radio programs? I didn't have the stomach to do that. So I decided to ride it out and became an owner of what became the OAKLAND Invaders of the USFL.
It lasted 3 years, and then, as you probably know, we sued the NFL for antitrust, and we won $1.
While I was CEO of the Corette Empire, I became involved with the American Friends of the Hebrew University, which was sort of my first real philanthropic involvement. A few years later, I received their highest philanthropic award, which is the Scopus Award. Having the challenge of all of this money that we had to award intelligently, and I underscore the word intelligently, I got a very, very significant education through that experience. There's no doubt about it.
He is measured in his analysis, and he is honest and principled in his decisions with respect to donations, and he is also decisive.
Well, my first trip back to Poland was in the context of my being CEO of the Corette Empire. We had a division in Racine, Wisconsin called Rain Fair. I happened to be aware of the fact that Poland by that time became a significant manufacturer of raincoats, top coats, outerwear in general. And so I made a journey. The landscape was very depressing. Everything was gray in Poland at that time. The sky was gray, the buildings were gray, the people were gray. Everybody, you know, there was no laughter, no joy. Now let me contrast that with now, today. Today the Rynek is wall-to-wall outdoor restaurants. There are orchestras playing, usually several orchestras playing in the middle of the square. You know, people in a festive state, no matter what day of the week or what time of year. I got very interested in the whole concept of Jewish peoplehood. In most educational settings, the study of matters that relate to Jews are generally focused on religion and focused on Israel. I viewed Jewish life as a much broader perception. The one piece that was always kind of missing was Poland. Poland was missing because the Jews were missing. I mean, you know, the Nazis virtually annihilated most of the Jewish population of Europe. So, having come to that conclusion, I decided that I would start to include Poland in my philanthropy. You know, one of the things people talk about now when they talk about Poland is the museum.
I don't believe that the Poland Museum would even exist without Tad's decision to finance it and to really fight to have a recognition and its existence.
You can't create a history museum out of nothing. There has to be some kind of remnant of culture and history and so forth, and I think we've contributed a lot of that.
It is different, and it is intellectually much more challenging than a conventional museum. It is also much more attractive in terms of activity, in terms of depiction of the history of the Jews in Poland. It uses modern methods of technology with respect to screening historical scenes.
It's become a real destination attraction.
My husband and I and a number of his and our friends went to Poland, and we got to see the amazing impact he's had on Poland and, of course, on the Jewish community in Poland. He's really helped bring about a reawakening of the importance of the Jewish community to the nation of Poland.
He's just a wonderful person, and he has a terrific sense of humor. He is very caring about the community, and he loves Stanford, and he can't do enough for Stanford. So he takes care of his friends as he would his family. He's just a wonderful human being.
I am greatly impressed by how vigorous he is and how he tends to give expression to that fertile mind of his. And I just hope that he continues to do so, and that I am a recipient of his wisdom and his judgment and his integrity and his honesty.
Tad has done it all, seen it all, and done the impossible. And that is a great friend.
Is that a great film or what? Give a big hand. A couple of quick comments. Did you see that picture of him in the Air Force? Tad, if you'd stayed in Hollywood, I think you'd make more than $25 a day with those looks, my goodness. And Tad, by the way, still is the highest wage earner in his family. Please welcome back to the stage Barbara to present our dear friend Tad Taube with this wonderful award and honor.
Thank you so much, Dan, and I hope you did enjoy the evening and the film. Tonight, Mike Paone was supposed to be with me. He's a longtime friend of Tad, and unfortunately, he was taken ill this evening. But he wanted to share with you his reasons why Tad is so deserving of this honor tonight. And so I'm going to read a little something that he sent with a friend this evening. I'm going to paraphrase Ralph Waldo Emerson. To know even one life has breathed easier because you lived. This is to have succeeded. And you, my dear friend of over 50 years, have made many lives breathe easier because you have lived. And therefore you have succeeded. Tad, you truly deserve this award. Thank you and God bless you. Mike Paone. So tonight, Tad will be receiving the Bronze Eagle Award, and you can see it here. This is given annually to the History Makers recipient, and there's a little story about the Eagle. It is created from a cast that the History Museum did to replace some eagles that were above the tri-lights in the old courthouse's second floor. And the rumor has it that the judges of the past took them as souvenirs. So, on behalf of the San Mateo County Historical Association, I wish to award our San Mateo County History Makers Award to Tad Taube for his international philanthropic efforts and so much more. Mr. Taube, would you come forward, please?
I'm really overwhelmed by this outpouring of love and recognition. Thank you, Dan, for your gracious comments. I value our friendship a great deal. And I thank you for exaggerating my qualities. There's so many people here that I'd like to recognize, which is obviously impossible, but I would like to have my wife Diane stand, please. She's generous too. She bid $3,000 on one of the items. I have two of my 6 children here. 2 sons, my oldest, Mark Toby. Mark, would you stand? And his younger brother, Judd. I'm going to put on I made a few notes, and you know, one of the things that happens when you're around as long as I have is one of the things that doesn't hold out as well is your eyes. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read my notes. I want to tell you just a little bit about the museum. About a year ago, a dear friend of mine, a competitor on the tennis court, great banker, Union Bank, Dee Tolles, who unfortunately is been besieged by very bad health. But anyway, Dee dragged me to a Japanese restaurant across the street from the courthouse. And I usually, you know, try to keep my lunches to business, because try to make use of the whole day. Remember, I was the highest earner in my family. And so we had lunch, and after lunch, he took me across the street to the courthouse. Well, it wasn't the courthouse anymore. It was this incredible museum that we're essentially honoring tonight. And, you know, it was embarrassing for me because I've been a resident of San Mateo County for many years, and somehow, you know, I didn't know that this great place existed. And so I started bringing my friends there. And our dinner chairman, Greg Galley, by the way, Greg, great job, he got involved. And for those of you that are here tonight that have not been to the museum, I really urge you to do so. Because frankly, 65,000 people going through a year, it ought to be 500,000. This is a jewel. This is an incredible place. And Mitch, where is Mitch? There you are. Mitch has done a superb job. I mean, I could understand why Mitch has done such a great job. He handed me a program for this evening, which was about 8 pages long, single space, a level of detail I have never seen in my life. We finally got down to the last item, which happened to be me, and he had me penciled in there for 3 minutes. So, Mitch, you did a great job, but I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have the microphone. And so that gives me a lot of leeway that I'm going to take advantage of. So the museum is absolutely a treasure, and I hope that all of you, end up participating in the museum one way or the other. I want to talk a little bit about the people that are here tonight. A lot of my friends are here. There's people here that I have not met before, and I appreciate your coming and taking your time of your precious evenings and supporting this dinner and this incredible museum. There's one other category of people that are here that I've got to recognize real quickly. One of the things that happens to people that have the privilege of enjoying success is they sort of become a target. So I've got 4 lawyers here tonight, just in case. You know, I'm really not sorry that my parents dragged me out of that cesspool that is now known as Hollywood. It's really, you know, I was there at an early time. We had great people in Hollywood. In fact, we had studio school. I don't know if any of you know what studio school is. Studio school is a space about 20 feet from the set that has a light bulb, 60-watt unfrosted light bulb hanging over a table. And about every 20 minutes after the shoot, the kids all go to this table for about 5 minutes, and that's studio school. And so you can understand why my mother and father were somewhat concerned about that level of education. One of my classmates was Elizabeth Taylor, believe it or not. But you know, who knew that at that time? She was, I don't know, 9 years old. I want to talk a little bit about this process of philanthropy and the thanks that people direct to me. And what I want everybody to understand is that those of us that have made philanthropy more or less of a profession, and I think that I've made my mark in that area. I've been doing it now for the better part of 40 years and been participated in a lot of different gifts, including to this great institution. You know, it's always awkward when people thank me because I kind of feel that I need to be thanking the people that are thanking me for giving me the opportunity. The philanthropic area, unlike the business world, is not measured in any concrete terms. If you're running a company, and I've had that, among my 12 careers, I've also run companies, there's a measurement. At the end of the quarter, and at the end of the half, and at the end of the year, you've either got black ink or red ink. And if you've got red ink, you're not going to be around for too long. So there is a specific way that the corporate world measures success or failure. The philanthropic world is much more touchy-feely. There's an awful lot of money that is given in good faith, that really, unfortunately, doesn't do a lot of good. The yardstick I think most philanthropists and business people use, for investing their money is impact. Will the money that I'm going to give to a particular organization have an impact? Will it do something that's positive? Will it help somebody? Will it help a certain population? Will it rescue children from unfortunate circumstances? So there are many, many millions of ways that people can be helped, but there's also almost as many where the money is diffused through a whole series of layers of bureaucracy, and there's a chief, and there's an assistant chief, and the assistant chief has 4 assistants, and the money sort of evaporates through, a bureaucratic maze. And so, we call those of us in the philanthropic, I got sued on this, by the way, so I want to be very careful here. We call that bottomless pit philanthropy, where there's going to be no particular benefit derived. So what I'm trying to say is that I had so many people tonight come up to me and thank me for this or that or some kind of involvement that benefited the person that was thanking me. And I got to tell you, I thank you. I thank you for the privilege of having the ability to support something that's worthwhile. And what is more worthwhile than this incredible museum? So when I was asked to step forward and represent the museum as an honoree at this dinner, it was a great privilege for me to do so. I was thankful to Mitch when he extended the invitation to me, and I from the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you for supporting me tonight, and thank you very much. I'm not sure. I may need help to carry this thing.
Do I have to lift it? No. It's quite heavy, actually.
You mind coming to the seat?
A big hand for Tad Taube. It's been a great privilege to be with you tonight. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for your generosity. One of the great joys of my job is the unique place in the community because of my job to have the chance to come do things like this and spend time with people like you. So I really am terribly grateful for the chance to be here tonight and to support this great association, the San Mateo County Historical Association, the museum, and the 2 other properties. And of course, to honor my friend of many years, Tad Taube. It's meant the world to me to do all of those things. Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight, for your generosity and kind support. We're terribly grateful for the San Mateo County Historical Association and for our honoree, Tad Taube, tonight. Good night. Have a nice evening. I'll see you on TV at 11. Bye for now.